All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks again for joining us for office hours. Um, as always, if you have any questions, throughout the presentation, either related to Broadstreet, which is the topic for today, or anything else that has come up in the last week, feel free to go ahead and type those into the pane. We'll cover them as they come up, or if it's unrelated, we'll wait to the end and we'll sit here and answer as many questions as you need. Today's agenda, I'm happy to have Kenny and John, who are the co-founders of Broadstreet, on the call today. I'm going to turn things over to them in just a few minutes to let them introduce Broadstreet and themselves. And then we're going to do a deeper dive into the different ad types that they have available, all the placements on your site. We'll walk through how to post an ad in Broadstreet. We've talked in the past about the difference between share of voice and targeting specific ads to specific pages on the site. So we'll cover that again. And finally, we'll wrap up with talking about the different types of reporting that Broadstreet has available. So before I turn the reins over to Kenny or John, whoever decided they wanted to talk this afternoon, I would like to say first, welcome to the call. We're very excited about the relationship that we've forged ahead with Broadstreet. Their technology is incredibly well aligned with, what we're trying to do as a publishing network, and I think this is a great step forward for both Locable as well as a phenomenal tool for the publishers that we're currently working with. So I guess Kenny, if you wouldn't mind, maybe just giving us a quick introduction and maybe talking a little bit about Broadstreet and what your mission is.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thank you for having us. Secondly, Broadstreet, to anyone who doesn't really know what our mission was, we started out about 2 years ago, and we started building ad products, particularly for local news publishers. So the first publisher was somebody that was close to me personally, was the founder of RedBankGreen.com. And Red Bank Green is an indie news publisher in Red Bank, New Jersey. Probably is usually considered one of the earliest hyperlocals and a very successful hyperlocal. And before Broadsheet was actually a thing, me and John was the lead engineer at Patch, AOL's Patch, and I was working at Yahoo. And John was asking us to build some ad products for him, which was kind of like right up our alley. So we were doing that. And John eventually, kind of told us that, hey, there's a community of indie news publishers that are a lot like me, and you could probably sell your products to. And we're kind of we thought like, okay, we didn't really formalize or anything. We didn't start a company right off the bat. So, but we did go to a couple conferences and just show off what we had, and we had a lot of very positive feedback from our publishers. So eventually, we decided to formalize it. I left Yahoo, John left Patch, and we started Broadstreet. Broadstreet has grown over this it's probably close to 3 years now. Broadstreet's grown over this 3 years to offer everything from our original ad product, which you'll hear about in a bit, called Editable Ads, to ad serving, to specialized ad formats, self-serve advertising, and a lot of other products that we think are really handy for the indie publishers. And the thing is, we're all about, we're always looking from the perspective of Red Bank Green. We said, okay, you're Red Bank Green, how are you going to fight back against Patch? How are you going to fight back against every other local startup or network, or every very heavily invested corporate project that comes out? There's always something every year. There's a new company that's putting something out that's essentially competing with an indie news publisher. So from our perspective, one of the most powerful tools in the indie publisher's toolbox is the ability to kind of innovate on the ad front. So where Patch always has to sell 300 by 250s and these static banner ads, we said, hey, you know what? We can offer certain ad formats that our indie publishers can sell that Patch isn't going to be able to sell, because it's something that doesn't come through an exchange easily. It's something that we don't offer to those big publishers or advertisers. So as you see some of our products, you'll see like, this is something that I could use to, kind of own my market. So I guess at this point, that's Broadsheet's background. You can read a little more into it. I'm always happy to answer questions. But as you see the products that we'll be talking about, you'll kind of get a good sense of where we're going. Aside from all the products we built, I always like to tell people that we have an ad server at the core of it. So you need someone to serve your ads so your site stays relatively smooth. You can do things like section targeting and running an advertiser's campaign for, from a certain start date to a certain end date. So you need the ad server for those purposes. And we have competitors. We have Google DFP. We have AdZerk. But where Broadstreet kind of differentiates itself is that we start building those products for the indie publishers around our ad server. So anyway, I'll turn it back over to Ryan, but we'll start getting into some of the features and the different products we have.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny. That's great background for everyone on the call. So, the next thing I really want to jump into is more kind of Locable specific. All along, we have been using Google DFP to serve the ads, and that there's certain zones or placements, and we'll get into the terminology about what each of these things mean in a little bit, but nothing there is really changing. You still have the push down ad, up at the top right under the menu. You have sidebar ads. In this specific example, I'm only showing one, but you can show up to three. And then you have inline ads that kind of show, below the carousel and in between the different articles on the home page and all the archive pages. And a lot of you have heard us talk about snapshot ads, something that we don't see people use a lot, in our system currently. But as you'll see, there's going to be some interesting opportunities of how you can leverage Broadstreet to really take advantage of these snapshot ads, which are, slot number 5 there in the bottom right of the left-hand graphic. You also have some wide skyscrapers that only show on the calendar and directory. So, for those of you who have been familiar, have been using our platform for a while, you'll see that none of that's really changed. The integration with Broadstreet has been mostly on the back end, giving you the ability to access and manage your own ads and do some greater targeting. The one thing that did change from your perspective is now if you go into manage content and customize, you have a lot greater flexibility for both the sidebar and the snapshot ads. So if you want the sidebar ads to show, you need to go there and actually add them to the sidebar. And before I move on, I do see that some people are having some issues with sound. Someone just logged in. If you wouldn't mind muting yourself so that we can keep the background noise to a minimum. I'll ask Brian to respond to the comments here. He's sitting here over my shoulder. So I will keep pushing forward. However, the flexibility in the sidebar, if you want to add them to the sidebar, if you want more than one sidebar ad or more than one snapshot ad to show, you need to go in and actually add them. This also gives you the ability to reorder. So if you want to move things around, that's where you go to do that. Outside of that, everything else is kind of built into the platform, and you don't have to worry about it. So the next thing we're going to talk about are the different ad types. And for those of you who've had a chance to kind of log into Broadstreet and poke around the interface, you'll see that they offer a number of different types of ads that you can post. As part of your standard membership with the Locable network, we are covering all the base costs of Broadstreet. That gives you a lot of benefits, such as using their CDN, which basically makes the ads load a lot faster than they were before. It gives you the keyword targeting, which we'll cover later on. Whole bunch of reporting things, standard banner advertisements, HTML. If you want to grab a third-party ad and drop code in, you can do all that kind of fun stuff too. And those two things, the things that you see outlined in the red bubble here, are included as part of your base membership. Everything else on this page are what we're going to call premium ad types. They're things like the editable ad that Kenny mentioned earlier, or another one that we're going to talk about, the lazy ad, which is an interesting way of kind of putting together a quick mock-up. If you choose to use these, and they're totally optional, just want to point out that it will be your responsibility, your financial responsibility as a publisher to cover those costs. Outside of that, you can pretty much do everything we were doing before. In fact, even probably a little bit more than we were doing before. Without spending any additional money, so you don't have to worry about that. But I do encourage you to certainly look into each of these different ad types and see what they're all about. As I mentioned, here are the two that really stuck out to me. And to be perfectly honest, I haven't had a ton of time to play with all of them yet because there's so many great ones out there. But these two are really interesting. So you can see on the left-hand side, you have the lazy ad. As they call it, and it basically allows you to take an image and drop some text over it and start serving it almost immediately. And they actually say here that if you need to do a quick mock-up. And certainly that's a great way to do a mock-up. But I actually think this ad looks really good, and I think you could, for some of your lower budget advertisers that you're talking with, if you wanted to do a snapshot ad um, with this particular kind of layout, I think it would be an easy way for you to kind of deliver that at a low price for them, especially if they don't have the ads already designed. Um, and Kenny, do you have anything to add to that one, or it would be awesome if you could jump in here and kind of describe the editable ad and how that works in a little bit more detail.
Right, right. The editable ad was actually one of our, that was the first product that Broadstreet started out with. So the concept of the editable ad is that if you think about advertising online right now, every ad is static. They don't really change. We wanted to kind of change that. So the editable ad hooks up with an advertiser's Facebook or Twitter account, and it can pull in posts from their Facebook page. So in this particular case, Red Bank Green's Pie, they have a post on Facebook that says, "Call it New Yorker" on the Navasink, smoked salmon and horseradish, obviously, and they posted a picture of a bagel alongside that. So the editable ad system actually pulled in
Kenny, not to interrupt here, but whoever just dialed in, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself to keep the background noise down, I'd appreciate it while Kenny's talking. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. So basically on Red Bank Green's Pie Hole page, their Facebook page, they posted a post with that picture of the bagel and that text that you see right there, and the ad was recompiled on the Broadstreet side. Now, the original ad had that Pie Hole logo. It had the orange bar, but it didn't have the text and it didn't have the picture of the bagel. So it was kind of like a template. So editable ads are a way that the advertiser can update the ad as many times as they want per day, and just keep the ad fresh, because there's a huge jump in the click-through rates, and the ad is much more performant compared to just regular standard static ads. And that was kind of part of our push to make ads less ad-like and more informational. So kind of entice the user to click on it, make it something that they actually want to look at every day. So that's the point of editable ads. And eventually,
sorry, go ahead.
No problem. One thing I should point out is that even this lazy ad over on the left, that will eventually be editable. So we have a push to make everything editable, everything dynamic, with a new project we're coming out with called Laserbeam. But you guys will probably hear more about that down the road.
Excellent teaser. I'm certainly interested to see what you guys continue to come up with and the different ways you're going to be innovating around the whole banner ad scene. As it says here on the page, this is great for restaurants, politicians, event venues, really anyone who is doing a lot of they have a lot of different things that they need to promote at the same time. Editable ads would be great for that type of advertiser. We could sit here probably for several hours and go through all the different ad formats. There's a ton more, available. But since we don't have that much time, if you'd like to go check out broadstreet.com/ad-platform/ad-formats, you can see the link there on the screen, and you can read about all the different other premium ad types that they have available. So with that, we're going to kind of jump in and talk about actually how to post an ad, because I know most of the people on this call, that's why you're here. So you may have noticed when you log into your website now, you have a new menu item under Manage Site for ad management. When you click on that, it's going to automatically log you in your dashboard at Broadstreet for your account. Before we move on and kind of walk through each individual step, there's some terminology that we just want to throw out there so that we can kind of talk about this and be on the same page. Broadstreet has this term of networks, and the way we kind of view that from the Locable perspective is a network is equivalent to a site. So if you are a publisher and you have one site, you're going to have a network on Broadstreet that will serve ads for your site. Those are kind of a one-to-one relationship for the majority of the people that we're working with. There is actually some nuance there if you have more than one site with us, but given that that's a little bit more technical, I'm not going to go into that. Everything in Broadstreet is kind of based around an advertiser, and as you see, the first step is going to be either create or select an advertiser before you can even start to upload an ad. So that one should be pretty straightforward. Anytime you're going to be working with a new advertiser, you're going to want to add them to Broadstreet, and then you can do everything else. advertisements are the actual ad. And if you're just using a standard banner ad, this is an image with a click-through link and a name. If you're using an editable ad, there's going to be other parameters or things that you need to consider. But this is basically where you put all the creatives and the copy and anything else that's actually going to make up the ad that you want to serve. Campaigns are a way of kind of grouping similar ads together. We'll get into that a little bit more later on. Zones are what I was talking about earlier on when I said, all right, you got the push down, you got the 3 sidebar ads, you got the inline, the snapshot, the wide skyscraper, and all that kind of stuff. Those are zones. They're automatically set up for you. Never delete a zone, otherwise your ads are going to stop working. We do a pretty good job of trying to keep. Well, we have basically a task that runs every night to make sure everything stays in sync. So in case you do accidentally delete it, it will get added back. However, just avoid even going into the zone area unless you're really trying to do something, and in which case, I suggest that you reach out to us to help you figure that out first. You'll notice that as we go through this, you'll see all the standard zones that I've already talked about, but there's actually 2 more. One is called mobile and one is called newsletter. Those zones aren't being used yet. They're in there because we have plans to introduce a new mobile ad, which we've talked about at length in the past with you guys. And later on, as we begin to introduce more things around the newsletter, we'll have an ad slot for that as well. But those are kind of forward-looking things. Don't worry about them for now. And placements are simply the idea of placing an advertisement into a specific zone and telling it kind of where it is going to show up on the site. So with that said, let's kind of dive in now and walk through each step of the process. So when you log in, when you click that link at the very beginning from your website, it's going to bring you to the Broadstreet dashboard. And on the left-hand side, you will see the link for advertisers. That's the section here highlighted in the yellow bubble. Start by clicking that. It's going to take you to the advertiser screen, and at this point, you have 2 options. One, you can either select an existing advertiser, say Bob's Plumbing, or you can go ahead and create a new advertiser. In this example, I use Ryan's Computer Repair. If you want to send weekly or monthly or quarterly reports, you can check off one of those, click Create. It will show up, and then you can click on it, and it will take you to the next screen, which is basically the home base for each advertiser. And here you can do a couple things. One, you can add a new advertisement, which we're going to talk about now, and then the next step would be to add a new campaign. You can see both of those links up near the red arrow. So once you get to this screen, you literally want to create the ad. So you'll click New Advertisement. You can see here on the right-hand side, you give it a name, you can give it the click-through link, you can upload a photo, by clicking the Browse button. This is actually the screen for the standard banner ad, which is what you'll probably use, 8 or 9 times out of 10. The screens are going to look a little bit different if it's an editable ad or a lazy ad because there's different parameters that you're going to have to fill out and provide. But generally, the workflow is exactly the same. Once you create the advertisement, the next step is to then add or create a campaign. A campaign, like I said, is basically a way of organizing ads into a specific group and then giving it a start and an end date. This is also where if you wanted to target it to a specific page on your site, this is where you would do that. We'll come back to that in just a few minutes. But generally speaking, those are the first kind of 3 steps you need to do in order to get things started. Kenny, without going into kind of the placements, which is the last step of this, is there anything I missed there that you wanted to point out?
No, I think I think that's fine. And I think in your slides you also mentioned the quick campaign, which I think a lot of publishers will end up. I even use it all the time over the regular campaign screen, just because it's so quick.
Yeah.
And you can avoid the concept of placements entirely if you're just doing you only have one ad to serve and you want it to run at a zone, which I think the majority of publishers tend to do, at least on the indie level. So I guess we'll talk about that.
Yeah, and definitely we are going to show you the quicker and faster way of doing this, but I wanted to walk through the long way so you can kind of start to really understand the terminology and see which screen has which information on it. And in this specific case, I wanted to talk about targeting a little bit, so it was a nice segue. Before I get into how to do targeting, I want to just kind of back up a little bit and talk about the difference between share of voice and specific ad targeting. We've talked a lot about this in the past. Um, Personally, here at Locable, we're more of a fan of share of voice. I think there's about 2 people in our network that actually do some level of targeting. So we're going to do just a brief introduction so you know that it's a possibility, but we really, really recommend doing share of voice, at least until you get to a point where you've kind of saturated the market and filled up all your spots, and then you can start to raise prices and do targeting and really make it a premium ad buy. But when you're getting started, share of voice is the way to go. Um, Share of voice, just a quick example, is where multiple advertisers share one zone. So a zone is like a sidebar spot, and the ad is placed site-wide. So multiple advertisers will share that one sidebar slot, and that sidebar ad will show on every page where the sidebar is shown. And it would, the share of voice part is if you have 3 advertisers, it means each ad is going to show 1/3 of the time. So 1/3 of the time that every page load, it's going to show one of those 3 advertisers, if that makes sense. Targeting, on the other hand, is where an advertisement is placed on a specific page or set of pages. For example, maybe you want to show a push-down ad only on the home page. So that's the difference between share of voice and specific ad targeting. We support both. The kind of the standard setup, or the way we've kind of set up the integration with Broadstreet, is the standard is share of voice. But if you do want to do targeting, when you're adding the campaign with that section that I highlighted a few slides ago, in the keyword section, you need to put in the keywords for the specific pages. Now I'm going to give you here, and then for those that do want to do targeting, you're going to have to head over to our help center and check out how do I add banner ads to my site for a list of all the possible keyword targets. But let's say I wanted to focus on the home. I wanted an ad to show only on the home page and only on the calendar. I would type in home and calendar. I would check the keyword exclusivity box, and then that ad will only show on those 2 pages. The other example where this makes sense is, let's say I wanted to do a sponsorship ad on a specific article. What I would do is I would go find the article, and you can see the part here that I highlighted in yellow is the title of the article, and I would basically say the keyword is going to be article underscore and then the title with all the dashes replacing the spaces. I would put that in as a keyword, and now it's only going to show up on that one individual page. So this is a slightly more complex topic. I'm going to stop there just because I know not a lot of people use this right now. We have a full detail with a lot more examples and every keyword you could possibly target. Just know that if you do get down to that level, you can target as low as an individual article or page on your site. Or we have a bunch of different kind of groupings that we've kind of pre-configured out of the box for you to use, such as if you on all of the archive pages, for example. That's something really easy to do. So the last step of the process is really what we call placements. It's the act of taking an advertisement or an ad and putting it into a specific zone. So if you're not using the quick campaign, which I think we cover on the next slide, once you've added the campaign, you will see 2 buttons highlighted up top, manage placements or manage under the placements box. You click one of those, and then you will see a screen similar to the one on the left-hand side where you would actually click, and if you can, it's a little bit subtle, but you can see the green. That means it's selected here. So I've selected Bob's Plumbing sidebar from 1111. That's the advertisement, and I want it to show up in the sidebar 1 slot. I would hit create placement, and then it will show you on the right-hand side of that same screen that here are the ads that are currently placed in what zones. So if you remember back now to what I was talking about way back when, and saying you have to add the sidebar items in order for the slots to show. So if you were to put one ad in sidebar 1 zone and another ad in sidebar 2 zone, you'd have to make sure that there's at least 2 active sidebar items under manage content, customize your sidebar in order for those ads to show. If you only do one, it's only going to show the first one. So a little bit confusing, I'm sure, the first time you hear it, but just know that for everyone that's already, um, already on the system, we've kind of mapped this out for you already. And whoever just dialed in, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself to eliminate the background noise, that would be appreciated. Um, so with that said, I'm going to pause here. It looks like there's a couple questions coming in. So Janelle asked, how many advertisers can share a voice in one zone? Kenny was nice enough to respond for me, as many as you'd like, or your advertisers will put up with. That's true. However, I would recommend, coming up with some limit, at least internally. I mean, if you go over one or under one, it doesn't really matter. But as Kenny mentioned, we like to say, shoot for that kind of 3 per zone kind of mark. I think that gives you plenty of space throughout your site. And if you use all the different, ad zones that are available, I think that gives you something close to 30 or 32 different spots. And even more than that, if you include some of the individual, targeting you can do around, sponsoring a specific article, which we're not even going to cover today. So you should have plenty of inventory, even with just 3 per zone. That would be my recommendation. And as Kenny pointed out, you can also configure it so that more than one ad appears in it at any given time, which is, I believe, if I understand what he's saying, right, the default of how we have it set up right now. If you have any other questions around that, feel free to type them in or reach out to me individually. I'll also give you a nice place to go to ask Kenny and John any questions that come up at the end of the slides. So with that, Kenny pointed out that there's a quick campaign screen. Basically, this will be the first thing you see right after you add an advertisement. So that's an ad. And it makes it really easy. You can either create a new campaign, an existing campaign. And you can see down at the bottom, there's even the place to do the placements, or what they're calling zones here. I use this 9.9 times out of 10. I don't go through that longer process unless I really need to do keyword targeting, and even then I'd probably set it up here and then go edit the campaign to add the keyword targets. This is definitely a huge time saver and probably the preferred method. But as I said before, I wanted to go through and show you the long way so that you can better understand the process as we're going through. Kenny, anything did I miss anything there?
No, I don't think so. You're fine.
Okay. So one other question from Timothy. I don't see in this process where we load the actual ad graphic. So I'm going to back up a little bit. And that was one of the first steps we did. So the second step in the process was called advertisements. And when you click on this new advertisements button up here at the top, this screen on the right-hand side will come up. And this is where you actually add the image. So if you see down below, right above the delete button, there's a button for browse, and you would click that, select the file from your desktop or wherever it is on your computer, and that is where you actually add the graphic. This is also where you would add the click-through link. So this destination, that's where you want someone to go when they click the ad. Now, this is just something I set up for the demo, so I use Locable.com. But if you had Bob's Plumbing, it would be bobsplumbing.com or whatever their URL would be. Hopefully that answers that question. So just a couple more slides here before we wrap up. Reporting is really, really simple in the Broadstreet interface. If you're on your main dashboard page, you'll see up here at the top the first red arrow pointing to the reporting tab. And when you click on that, you'll see basically a list of all your advertisers. Now, and this is our demo account, so our advertisers here are House Ads and Google AdSense. This is also where Bob's Plumbing shows up, or Ryan's Computer Repair, whoever the advertisers are listed. The next column shows you the advertisement or the ad that's actually running, and then you see views, hovers, and clicks, as well as click-through rate. So the views are, ad impressions. Clicks are obviously what they are, and the click-through rate is, how many times is someone clicking it per on a percentage basis per the number of impressions. Kenny, would you like to kind of talk about what hovers are in this case? I know they're probably a little bit more unfamiliar to most publishers here.
Right. When we built hovers, we just wanted to track how many times users were dragging their mouse over an ad, and that became an especially important metric for some of our special ad types, which actually, perform some something like a flip, or maybe it'll change the graphic on our special ad types. But hover is essentially when a user runs their mouse over the ad. We only track one hover per page load, so the user can't just drag their mouse over it a bunch of times and run up the hover count. So it's a nice way. It's something in between clicks and views that you can use to, if the advertiser is especially interested, kind of show them that yes, your ad's being viewed, it's being users are engaging with it. So it's just another metric. But the questions I typically get are, how many times will you track a hover per page load? The answer is one. And the other question is, um, maybe is that the only? Well, I think I'll come back. I'll circle back with that particular question. But oh, right, is there a timeout? So it's as soon as the user drags their mouse over the ad, that we'll track the hover, and we'll only do it once per page load. So that
Great.
that's the story on hovers.
Yeah, thank you. So, if you wanted to have only the reporting for a specific advertiser, you'll see a similar link on the advertisers page, which will show you only that specific advertiser. And if you were to edit an advertiser, and Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, because we didn't have a chance to connect on this one last question I had for you guys. But if you want the report to be automatically sent, so if you remember back a few screens ago, there was an option to, say send a weekly report or send a monthly report. I believe on the edit advertiser screen, if you add new administrator, that is how you actually send the report. Is that correct, Kenny?
Right. So the on that edit advertiser screen, you can say, will they get monthly, weekly, quarterly reports? And then on the top right, you'll see the administrator screen. So basically, what you'll want to do is just add the advertiser's email address right there. And if you set up a password and you send them that password, not only can they get the email reports, but they can also log in and check their reporting as often if they want. But of course, you don't have to give them the passwords. It's up to you.
Yeah, so it's up to you guys whether you want to give them access. I would say probably the default is don't worry about it. And if you have an advertiser that's like, hey, I want a monthly report, or you have an editable ad that they, whatever needs to be. Well, I guess that's not the case, so scratch that. If you want to get the report, add their email address here. And as you can see here, and I'll give Kenny a chance to talk about this right at the end, but you can actually offer, well, Broadstreet offers publishers the ability to bill advertisers directly through the platform. They charge, it looks like 5%. But if you wanted to use this as an alternative to Stripe, we've talked about this in the past. This is a great way to collect money on credit card as well. And it's a nice way to kind of pull everything together and keep it in one spot. So with that, if you have any technical questions about the Broadstreet ad server, they have a link here, in the platform that you can click, and it'll take you over to their knowledge base. I'd also suggest making sure that you join the Broadstreet community group. It's a closed group. It's only available to people that use Broadstreet, but it's a great resource. People ask a lot of great questions. I get a lot of new ideas from this group, so I certainly suggest you kind of shooting over there and joining. And if you need other questions in terms of, how do I do the basics of posting an ad, we have an article in our help center, locable.zendesk.com. How do I post a banner ad, I believe is the title. And that'll walk you through all the terminology, the steps you need to go through, and hopefully the next day or so I'll be adding a video as well. Of course, these slides will be available online as well. And with that pretty much wraps us up going through, the Broadstreet ad server. Kenny and John, I certainly appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to everyone today. I'm personally very excited about all the different things you guys are doing. And I know that a lot of our affiliates are also excited about this move. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of throw in there that I
Right.
didn't cover?
Definitely, definitely. I'd say definitely join the Facebook community group, because you find out, a lot of times when you learn about a new company like Broadstreet, you don't really know the other publishers who are using it. It just seems like this, foreign entity. But when you join the Broadstreet community group, you find out there are a lot of other people who are basically doing exactly what you're doing, and some of the members are fairly prominent. Like, so there's Howard Owens and Debbie Gallant, who are part of that Lion indie news group, who are usually considered the most vocal, or some of the pioneers of indie news publishing online. So I'd say join the Broad Street community group, especially because we like to not only do people ask questions that are kind of outside the box to make feature requests, we always like to post things that we're just playing around with. So a lot of times, if we come up with an idea, we kind of pull the Broad Street community group and say, like, hey, is this something you guys would be into? Or we'll post a new ad format that we're playing around with, and we'll say, like, hey, how do you guys, what do you guys think of this? So that's kind of our sounding board a lot of the time, and I like it because it really does kind of feel community like, and everyone gets input on where Broad Street goes next. So I'd say join that, but other than that, I think the presentation was great, and I'm ready for questions if anybody has any.
All right, so that wraps up the presentation portion. We went a little bit longer today, but obviously this is an important piece of the revenue strategy, so we wanted to cover it as in-depth as we possibly could, given the short amount of time. At this point, if there's nothing else you have, we'll see you next week, and if you want to stick around, we'll stay on the line and answer as many questions as we can. All right.